This video is an humble effort to promote scientific thinking, rationality, and critical inquiry using materials intended to provide accurate and educational content. Viewer discretion is advised.
हेलो एन्ड वेलकम ब्याक टु निराजन्स कस्मोस। आज चाहिँ हामी एउटा मात्र रिल हेर्छौँ अनि त्यो रिललाई हेरेर चाहिँ हामीले डिबङ्क गर्छौँ। अनि यसमा फेरि हाम्रो धर्मलाई मात्र टार्गेट गरेर नभन्नुलाई प्लिज डोन्ट। मैले कुनै धर्मलाई टार्गेट गर्दिनँ एन्ड गर्नेवाला पनि छैन, बिकज इट्स नट इन माई इन्ट्रेस्ट। म कुनै धर्मको बारेमा उठाएर कुरा गरौँ किनभने मलाई इन्ट्रेस्टै छैन यो विषयमा कुरा गर्नु। सो डोन्ट कमेन्ट आउट कि मैले यो धर्मको बारेमा कुरा गरेँ, हाम्रो धर्मको बारेमा कुरा गरिस्, अरूको धर्मको बारेमा कुरा गरिनस्, दम छान त्यसकोमा गर, यो टाइपको यदि कमेन्ट आयो भने म सिधै त्यो कमेन्ट हटाइदिनेवाला छु पहिलो कुरा। सो एउटा मात्र रिल हेर्छौँ अनि यो रिलमा चाहिँ के कस्ता गलत कुराहरू चाहिँ मिसइन्फर्मेसनको रूपमा फैलाइँदैछ त्योलाई चाहिँ हामीले डिबङ्क गर्छौँ। त्यो स्टेटमेन्टलाई मात्र हेर्छौँ। मलाई मान्छेमा इन्ट्रेस्ट छैन, उसको व्यक्तिगत विचारमा इन्ट्रेस्ट छैन, मलाई खालि त्यो स्टेटमेन्टमा मात्र आइएम फोकस्ड एन्ड म त्यो स्टेटमेन्टलाई हेरेर त्यहाँ एनालाइज गर्छु अनि त्यसपछि त्यसलाई म डिबङ्क गर्छु होइन। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। वेट, मैले एयरपोर्ट बिर्सेँ।
So we will see the entire reel at first, and then once we watch the entire reel, then I'm going to debunk his statements one by one. Now you cannot come to me and comment on my video that, oh, you only talk about our religion, why don't you talk about that religion, why don't you talk about this stuff that's wrong about in their scriptures, why don't you do this, are you afraid of them? No, you can't do it. Okay, I'm just debunking what's wrong in yours, what I find, what followers of mine ask me to make content about. So you can't just come around and tell me not what to do. I know what to do and I'm doing my job. If you want to debunk them, then send me those reels. I have my Instagram publicly available to you. You can openly message to me and I will debunk them if you send those reels to me. So don't you be coming around telling me to make videos on them. I will. Just send me the reel. So we will watch the entire reel at first and then I will debunk them one by one. So let's get into it. No, I think we should not do that. I have already watched it, so we'll debunk it statement by statement. All right. No argument about the first sentences because I don't talk about people. I don't talk about the specifics. I only talk about what the content presents. So no attacks on person, no attacks on religion, no attacks on his initial statements. Okay, got it, established. So now let's move forward. Okay, I have prepared a note here and I will, because I watched his reel already, I have prepared the argument or statements that he proposed and I will debunk them. So let's get into it. Rigved does not talk about Big Bang. It rather talks about Hiranyagarbha or golden womb from which the universe emerged. Now, because I have read the Vishnu Puran and I have read Rigved, I know for the fact that Rigved talks about Hiranyagarbha and Vishnu Puran talks about the creation as a story. So Rigved tells that the universe originated through a golden egg. Vishnu Puran takes a different approach. Vishnu Puran says that there is a being called Vishnu. From Vishnu's navel comes Brahma. Brahma meditates for millions and millions of years and he is given darshan by Vishnu. So Vishnu orders Brahma to create the universe. Brahma creates the universe and everything. So now here is the question. If Rigved tells that universe originated from this Garva, Hiranyagarbha, or the golden egg, then how come Puran refute this by saying that no, there was a god, God created another created the universe? How can it be? Now you might come and interpret it that Vishnu is Hiranyagarbha and that Vishnu created Brahma and Brahma created the universe. But then again it refutes because universe originated from the golden egg, not Brahma in Rigved, mind you. So there is the problem. And he also mentioned about cyclic universe in Rigved. Yes, Rigved talks about cyclic universe. If I remember correctly, okay, I had read it few years back, so I don't remember exactly. But let's suppose that it says as he is mentioning. So let's come about this. Two scientists, Paul Steinhardt and Neil Turok, proposed the cyclic universe model. But there is no evidence to suggest that our universe goes through cyclic process of Big Bang and Big Crunch and Big Bang. We have no empirical evidence to fit in this cyclic universe model. So just because somebody proposed a model does not mean it, if it matches with your scripture, doesn't mean it becomes valid or true. No scientific model about the universe, like cyclic universe or Big Bang, confirms or refutes passages in the scripture. Scientific models are based on empirical evidence and logical reasoning. Religious scriptures are matter of faith and interpretation. You can interpret it as you like. So if you can interpret it as, oh, science says that, so then let me go back to the passage that says this and I will interpret it as science says. You can't do that. I mean, you can as interpretation, but that just is interpretation. It does not mean anything. It does not mean truth. So let's come about forward. Okay. um, Atomic theory. Now, in Hindu philosophy, there are 9 school of thoughts. Among them, one school of thought is called Vaisheshik. Now, Vaisheshik school of thought was established by Rishi Kanad or Kashyap, and the Vaisheshik school of thought was in competition with the existing 6 school of thoughts of that time. The work by Kanad in Vaisheshik Sutra talks about metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and a system of categories known as Padartha. So, as he says that Vaisheshik Rishi talks about atoms in his book. So, and John Dalton only discovered it in 19th century, which means 1800s. So let's come about this. I googled it. The question is, what does Vaisheshik Sutra of Kanad talk about Padartha or matter? And here is the information as presented to me by Google. Now we need to verify this, but you can find Vaisheshik Sutra book on the internet and you can read it too. I will search it and I'll upload the link in the description for Vaisheshik Sutra. So let's see what that talks about. The Vaisheshik Sutra, authored by Kanad, classifies all the existents, padarthas, into 6 categories. So there is categorization as I talked about: substance, dravya; quality, gun; activity, karma; generality, samanya; particularity, vishesh; and inherence, samavya. Later, the school added non-existence above as a 7th category. These categories are the objects of experience and are categorized as either perceivable or non-perceivable. Padartha in Vaisheshik philosophy, Padartha refers to the objects of experience, which are all things that exist, are cognizable, which means our brain or any living entity can think about it and recognize, and can be named. 6 original categories: substance, dravya, fundamental building blocks of reality such as atoms and souls. Okay, so here it talks about the atom. And then I also searched about atoms and their attributes. So I do this. Basic Sutra attributed to Konad posits that the universe is ultimately composed of indivisible, indestructible atoms called Parmanu or Anu. These atoms are fundamental building blocks of matter and possess distinct properties and can exist in states of rest or motion. Okay, very general statement, very accurate to the fact that we have this in atomic theory, but the atomic theory went through a refining process. John Dalton said that atoms cannot be divided, but we divided it. We now know that there are electrons, protons, neutrons. Protons and neutrons can be further divided into quarks. So one thing, it failed here. One thing. But the concept of atoms means the fundamental building blocks of matter. Well, that statement is true. Okay, but then, what are the atoms? In Kanad, the atoms or the matter for the fact, because atoms should be constituting to a particular matter. So these atoms are of fire, water, air, and space. Wait, fire, water, air, and earth. Sorry, not space, earth. So these are the four elements that Vaisheshik Sutra talks about if you read the text. So no, it does not talk about the hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, these atoms. It talks about as a definition that the fundamental building blocks are atoms, which uh, partially matches to the modern scientific interpretation, but no, it does not completely provide the idea or provide the context that atomic theory was first discovered by Konad. Okay, you need to understand this. So let's move forward. Okay, Surya Siddhanta and gravity. Surya Siddhanta talks about gravity as a force acted by Earth only. It means that if I throw this pen, Earth will attract. Okay, but that's not what gravity is. We now know it very clearly. Newton gave us the definition of what gravity is. Gravity is a force that is acted by two objects onto each other. Right, we know this. So, but because both objects are falling towards each other's center and the larger body has greater area and greater mass, which means that the center of fall might be near the heavier object. So, if I take this pen and earth, clearly the center of uh, mass or the center for which if there was nothing as crossed, it would fall directly towards the insides of earth toward the center. So that means if there was nothing in here, it was a hole straight down to the center of earth, it would just fall there and don't move forward. So because of the center of the falling point, it lies inside earth, the pen will fall down to the earth. But it's not that the pen is not pulling earth. Pen is also pulling the earth towards itself, but because the center lies inside the earth, the pen will fall inside the earth as an effect. So Newton explains gravity as a force by both objects exerting on each other and they both fall towards their centers by this famous equation that you studied in class 10 called F equals g m1 m2 by r square, where g is gravitational constant, m1 is mass of first object, m2 is mass of second object, and r is the distance between their centers. So let's move on. Okay. Speed of light. Now Adira has debunked the speed of light that people talk about in Rigbad. Oh, Rigbad has already talked about speed of light. Adira has already debunked this video, debunked this idea, and it's this video. I asked S.C. Verma about Rigved and speed of light. She clearly debunks this idea in her video, and I will add this video in my description. But I will also go through this. So in Rigved, first mandal, 50th sukta, fourth mantra, as people often claim this. Okay, I will show you where it shows, where people say this. Um, okay, see, first mandal, then 50th sukta and fourth mantra. It says this according to the people who cite Rigved. In half a nimish, a light travels 2200 to Yuzun, and this is the definition that they give. So there are two things: half a nimish and 2200 to Yuzun. So Yuzun is distance and nimish is a length of time. So I also went through research of this matter, and even I went to look for the mantra, and I find this verse translated in English, and clearly it's here in Adira's video. So translating, visible to all, a light maker are you, O sun. You illuminate the whole luminous realm. So in Hindi it translates to, हे सूर्यदेव, आप साधकों का उद्धार करने वाले हैं, समस्त संसार में एकमात्र दर्शनीय प्रकाशक हैं तथा आप ही विस्तृत अंतरिक्ष को सभी और प्रकाशित करते हैं. So this is the mantra, and I also looked out for this video by Science Journey, and he also debunks this video. He also debunks about the speed of light in Rigved, the video. I will reference this. So you can watch both of these videos to get understanding of how it is not right. So here is that the speed of light obtained by modern science, 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second, is an approximation. Now, people who mention that Rigved has a clearly reference to the speed of light, Indian scholars, Hindu scholars have calculated this. They often raise to 3 into 10 power 8, 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second value. So, but the problem is, they forgot that the speed of light is not 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. It's an approximation. The actual value of speed of light in vacuum is 299792458 meter per second. So if you take this 299792458 meter per second, if you approximate it into the nearest zeros, then it converges to 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. So that we take this 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second as an approximation in our calculation, so that it becomes easy to do calculations. But the actual speed of light is 299792458 meter per second. You have to understand this. Okay. Now, in Vishnu Puran and Bhagavad Puran, the idea of multiverse, yes, they talk about as a story. The story is like this. One, you have seen in Little Krishna as animation. It might be that, Brahma's hid away all Krishna's friends, and Krishna does his, Leela, and Brahma comes 1 year back 1 year later, sorry, and then he sees that his friends are there, and then all the Brahmas come about from other universes, and then he goes to Krishna, and Krishna says that you forgot that I have created other Brahmas too. You, when you had ego and you forgot about other Brahmas' existence, you forgot there are other universes with Brahmas far superiorly powerful than you. This stuff. In Bhagavad Puran. In Vishnu Puran, there is a thing called Vishnu sleeping, and when he exhales his breath, universe born into existence, and when he breathes in, universe die and get consumed into him. So this is what the multiverse theory they talk about in Hinduism. But let me give you a clear insight. Okay, multiverse theory in modern science is just a speculation. Our mathematics just throws out the idea of multiverse. There is no substantial empirical evidence to support that the multiverse theory exists. So right now it's only a matter of philosophical existence. It is not empirical existence at the moment. So multiverse theory is debunked. Multiverse theory, no, it's only a matter of philosophical discussion at the scientific consensus. There is no um, truth or any empirical evidence to suggest that multiverse theory exists. So maybe one day, if this multiverse theory is disregarded in scientific consensus, how are you going to talk about this? Because I've already mentioned that our scripture has talked about and modern science has just come about the multiverse theory. How are you going to refute that argument? My question. So let me continue the reel again. I don't want to talk about how Hinduism is a myth, first of all. The other thing about Rishi Susutru, I have no idea about this matter, about surgeries. I need to do studies on that. I need to do research on this. So right now I'm going to stop the debunking here. And well, no, there was one statement. Science is just a slow echo of what my ancestors whispered to the cosmos. What you call discovery, we called wisdom ages ago. Okay. My question is, if people in the Indian subcontinent had this knowledge thousands of years back, then why did people in Europe, people in Americas, they discovered it again? Okay, if people from Indian subcontinent discovered it thousands of years back, then that knowledge, where is it? I mean, you talk about, yes, of course there is, as you mentioned, but why was not this knowledge utilized? I mean, why did the people in Europe had to discover it again and invent this stuff, this microphone, this camera phone, this laptop, the internet? Why did they have to? Invent in the first place with these scientific discoveries if you had the knowledge already at your hand at the past? The question now becomes, if all these things were written 5,000 years back, then that means you have done nothing in 5,000 years that would contribute to modern day. Everything you boast about your past does not matter now, because past is in the past, and you need to look at modern day with modern eyeglasses. And mind you, the eyeglasses were invented by scientists, and now doctors do the checkup so that you can get particular spectacle for your vision. So I think you need to use a different lens. There is one thing I need to talk about. Carl Sagan said a particular statement, something worthwhile to your brain. Maybe it will help you, get something inside your head. We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which anyone hardly knows anything about science and technology. Carl Sagan said this. And we can see this because one thing, as you talk about your scriptures and science, one thing I need to tell a few things. So yes, there were many Indian scientists of the past who did great contribution to science, to math, to astronomy. They did great things. But then there were also other people who were trying to understand the universe, and in doing so, they used the method they could find. They used the information they could find. They employed technologies, they employed methodologies that they thought were best fit according to their times. Now in this 21st century, we have modern, sophisticated, uh, highly fast information networks through which we can access information and which we can do much more with very high precision, with very high sophisticated technology. So yes, we need to do a proper appreciation to the scientists, to the mathematicians, to the astronomers of the past of the Indian subcontinent. But that does not mean you will boast on about how your past was full of scientific stuff when in fact you are just boasting your history, which does not come about fruitful in times. So I think you have been taught about ego. There is something called ego. So you might have been taught in by your scriptures that ego is a very bad thing. Okay, so I think you should low down your ego, and that's it. So here is the debunk video. Now I will add the videos that I mentioned, one by Adira and one by Science Journey, and I will also mention the references for Surya Siddhanta, Vaisheshik Sutra, and Rig Ved from the internet so that you can read if I find them. And yeah, that's it. So thank you very much for watching. This will be only one real debunking video. Thank you.